Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here, welcome back to the Railway. Now the reviews I've done this year have been really enjoyable. I've loved every single one. There's already in 2021 been some fantastic models to show. However, a couple of the locos weren't quite right. Their performance wasn't quite as I expected it to be, and I was left a little bit disappointed with them, to be honest. So the locos are this. It is the new, very expensive Bachmann LMS 10,000 locomotive. It was a decent enough runner, but I discovered that it had an almost complete lack of torque, and when you cut the power, instead of coasting to a stop like you'd expect a loco with two huge flywheels to, this one stopped dead. So I decided there was something not quite right with that. And those of you who actually own one of those locos yourself, actually let me know in the comments that yeah, yours doesn't behave like that either. So definitely something not quite right with that loco. The second loco was this one. It is the Hornby BR Blue Flying Scotsman. Again, at the highest speeds, a very decent performer, but when I slowed it down I noticed there was definitely something not quite right. The speed was very inconsistent. It looked as though something was binding up, not working very well. So both of these models I deemed a little bit faulty, and I've decided today that I'm going to try to fix both of these models. Now, I know what you're going to say. This is a classic case of do as I say, not as I do, because obviously if you buy a brand new locomotive at a very high price from a retailer and it doesn't work properly, do not try to fix it yourself, alright? You have the right to return it to wherever you bought it, either for a replacement or for a refund, and you should be able to do that free of charge. Now, I am going to try and fix these today, first of all because I really enjoy it. It's one of the best parts of the hobby for me, getting to tinker with a locomotive, and of course, obviously, I'm quite experienced as well. I've done quite a lot of this in the past, so it's not as though I'm a newbie. Also, it's a good video idea. I thought I would really enjoy making a video about this, and obviously YouTube is what I do for a living. It's just what I do. So for me, this is a sensible thing to do, but for you guys, obviously it is not. I'll reiterate again, do not try to fix locomotives yourself, particularly if you've bought them brand new. I should say, especially if you've bought them brand new, because if you have a pop at it yourself and fail and then try to send it back, the retailer might decide to reject your return. Also, of course, by returning these faulty models, we send a message to the manufacturers to say that this is not good enough. Obviously, we shouldn't be accepting faulty models because then they will think it's all right. Bit hypocritical of me, of course, but then again, me making videos about these issues where hundreds of thousands of people will see it is also sending quite a message. So with that, let's get started. We'll start with the Flying Scotsman, I think, see if we can diagnose it and hopefully cause some improvements. I should also say I'm not certain that I'll be able to fix these, but I'm just going to have a go. So if there is a non-result at the end of this video, please don't be too cross with me. Anyway, let's give it a try. Fingers crossed it will be okay. Alright, so here is the Flying Scotsman, very beautiful locomotive, this one. As you remember, this one was just binding up a little bit at the slowest speeds. So my plan of attack for this one is going to be to remove the motor and some of the gears so that I can turn the wheels by hand, and that way I'll be able to feel if there are any sort of tight spots in the rotation. Now, I'm not expecting to find anything too bad in this area. I'm expecting maybe a little bit of tightness, but nothing too much. All I want to do is make sure that there isn't anything seriously binding up inside this loco, which might be damaging it over time. The other thing that I'm probably going to do, which is going to actually make a big difference, is probably just lubricate the loco. I don't know how long this was sitting in the shop for before I bought it. It could be a year or more than a year, so perhaps a little bit of lubrication is all this needs. However, I don't want to leave this to chance. I want to know if there is something seriously sticking inside here, which could cause the loco damage over time. So that's why I'm being careful, and I'm going to remove the motor and make sure that the wheel set is not binding up, because it did seem like there was some tightness or something in the coupling or connecting rods. Something didn't seem quite right, particularly in reverse, which was a bit strange, wasn't it? Okay, so let's get the body off. I'm not looking forward to this because I know that there's all sorts of tape all over the motor, which is annoying. Here it is. Okay. Now, can I do this without disturbing the tape? I would highly doubt it, and also I want to free up the wires so that I can remove the base keeper plate later on and hopefully lubricate it. Lubricate the wheel set, that is, and the bearings. You can lubricate the bearings and such without removing the base keeper plate, but I find this much tidier, and you can be much more precise if the base keeper plate is removed first. So that's why I'm going to do this. It isn't just because I'm anal about these sorts of things. Okay, to tape or not, I think we'll leave the tape for now. The lubrication looks okay. There is clearly lubrication on this locomotive, quite a lot. The temptation might be to clean some of it off. Has it gone gloopy? No, it's still quite fresh, that. I could clean it off. I mean, sometimes it gets old and goes a little bit crusty over time. Doesn't seem to be the case with this. One option would be to clear it off and try and reapply some, but no, I don't think I'll do that. Right, just so that we don't pull any of the motor wires out, I'm just going to put this cap back on. Or cover, rather. Cap, what am I talking about? That will just hold the motor in place while I'm fiddling about. I've taken the gears out now so that the wheel set should be completely free to spin. Right, I'm really interested to find this out then. Is anything catching? Let's feel. In that direction, certainly not. That's almost perfect. That's very strange. It does not feel like there's any problem there at all. Is the motor faulty? I don't think so. There's plenty of torque there, wasn't there? Let's try it upright. Got to try and hold this in a way that isn't going to destroy the thing. Let's try again. I'm using my finger on the middle wheel because that's where the gear is. Maybe there was a little bit of something there. Very slight though. So I've ascertained that there is nothing majorly wrong with this. There's a very, very slight tight spot, but I think that is to be expected. And I would expect just a little bit of lubrication to really mask that. So yeah, I'm pretty certain then that there is no major problem with that. That was my fear, you know. Is the linkage getting jammed against itself? Is it going to slowly destroy itself over time? No, I don't think so. I don't think so, at least. So I'm going to turn the motor upside down now. Hopefully not to trap the wires as I do so. There we go. And then, let's see, shall I get the helping hand? Yes. I'm going to go with my plan B then, and I'm going to try lubricating the system, seeing if that helps. So now I should be able to remove the base because I've slackened those wires. So I'll see you in a second after I've got this off. There we go. Okay, so now I have access to the wheel set, and there's some interesting stuff going on inside here. There are bits of sort of padding fitted around this bearing, which is interesting. Is that for noise reduction? I've not seen that before, and there is plenty of lubrication here. In fact, I would say there's almost too much. I'm tempted to actually clean this up. I'm going to do that. Yeah, it looks like sludgy on the axles. I don't think my cameras are in close enough to show that, but yeah, they look filthy. It's not hair and dirt, by the way. I know some people are going to suggest that. No, it's just sort of gunk from, I suppose, from the axles running themselves in for the first time. Yeah. Dirty, because as we know, dirty bearings could cause friction. So I'll do that and we'll come back to you in a sec. Okay, so I'm satisfied now that those are cleaned off, or at least the original lubricant is gone, which means I can now add my own more sensible quantity of lubricant, which I will now do on each of the bearings. I hate oily locos. I hate opening up a loco and just getting my fingers all covered in oil because there's been too much used. There's just no need, is there? It causes problems. Okay, pulling the wires through on the underside and just guiding the base keeper plate into the correct position, watching out for the pickups. There we are, that's in. Sorry if I'm covering this up with my hands, it's a bit of a hairy thing to do that. Alright, just turning the wheels gently to make sure that the pickups are all seated correctly, because if any of them are poking through the spokes, you try and run the model, it's going to damage it significantly, or damage the pickup at least. Okay, let's get the base screws back in then, and I think you know what, I will probably clean up those gooey gears that I pulled out and put some of my own lubricant on, because then we know that everything is as it should be. Right, let's clean up those gears then, see if this makes a difference. I'm actually hoping this will work properly after this. I really am. Okay, so you make sure all of the painted stuff is out of the way for this, because there is a tendency for the lubrication and the IPA that I'm using on this old toothbrush head can go everywhere. Damage bodywork, so hopefully I won't do that. The great thing about IPA is that it just dries immediately almost. You just blow it dry and it will completely evaporate. we go, looks good. I'll leave that to finish drying while I do the next one. There we go. Get all the old lubricant off. I say old, it didn't feel like there was any problem with it, but I didn't find any other problems either. So yeah, we're going to cover all bases and then hopefully it will work better at the end of this servicing. Whether it actually will or not, I have no idea. It might even work a lot worse. I don't know. Usually that's not the case, but you never know, do you? Okay, let's do the worm drive. The reason you want these dry is because if you're going to apply fresh lubricant, if it's covered in IPA, when you put the fresh lubricant on, the IPA can sort of eat away and chemically change the lubricant, which is obviously not something you want to do. Motor seems all right, I suppose. Right. Make sure these are all completely dry as I put them back. Okay, so that gear goes in there, like that. And I think I'll lubricate it while it's in. So I'm going to put a little bit of oil on its shaft. Very, very, very small amount. And then the second gear goes in like that, so that it meshes with it. Again, we'll put a tiny little drop of oil on the bearings. Okay, and then I will put my choice of lubricant, which is silicone grease. Not a huge amount, but you want enough to coat the surface of each gear. There we go. And then the motor sits back into place. Let's bend the wires around it. Where are these wires meant to go? Yeah, that's fine, I think. Okay, good. I'm not going to put any oil on the brush end of the motor, just in case that oil finds its way onto the brushes. Just a little bit, because it's all over the gears. And I'm hoping that will be okay now. So let's put on the brackets. Screw those on nice and tight, and then we'll get the thing tested again. Okay, so I think that was a relative success, really, to be honest with you. In fact, I'm going to put the thing back together because there's nothing more I want to do. It's a success because I didn't really find anything wrong. Everything seemed to be turning okay, and to be honest, I'm happy to live with that. Not every loco is the best runner in the world. As long as I know deep down that there's nothing wrong with a loco, I'm more than happy to run it. My fear, as I say, was that something was catching and slowly causing damage. I now know that that isn't the case. So even though it was a bit of a waste of time pulling the motor out and all that other stuff I did, I'm happy because I know that it's all tickety-boo inside. And the fact that I've cleaned off all the old lubricant and applied some fresh means that I know that that is not going to be causing problems either. So if it runs better now, great. I guess I did it. If not, then that's just the way this loco is. There's not a problem. Unless there's an issue with the motor, of course. But that's not a huge deal because I've got tons of them. Right, let's go and give this a test then, shall we? I'll just plug the tender back in, get this screw in, and then we'll see if I've actually managed to improve this at all. Well, we'll find out. Okay, so the first and most important question is, does this loco still work at all after its surgery? I'm a cocky so-and-so, and I've done this like a bazillion times, so I'm 90% sure that this will work just fine, but there's something weird that happens when you set up cameras and try to film these things, so there is a 10% of me that always doubts. Okay. Yes, it works. Let's run it up and down for a second. It seems a happy enough runner, doesn't it? That's nice and free already. Obviously the oil is going to have to work into those bearings. In fact, really, it should need another run in, but I'm not going to go as far as to do that. Okay, I'm nervous now because I'd really love, it would just be magical if I try and crawl with this thing and it crawls perfectly. I'm not convinced that it's going to, but let's have a look. Here we go, turning it up. So it's still cogging, and that's fine. I've not put a flywheel in, so I'm not expecting it to be ultra smooth. Is it going to suddenly speed up? It did seem to slow down a little bit there, didn't it? But I think that is a little bit better. Oh, well, that's speeding up again. So it's still a bit inconsistent. I do think it's a little bit better. I mean, go and check out the review if you're interested. But I don't think that is as bad as it was. The cogging is still going to be an issue. I suppose I could look into putting a flywheel in there, but that would be a different video. That would be a different challenge altogether. Try it in reverse.
Yeah, it's still doing it, isn't it, that? But do you know what? I'm not too bothered now because I know that there's nothing sticking. I mean, there's something that isn't perfectly balanced or whatnot, but I know that the mechanism is absolutely fine, so I know that running this loco is not damaging it. I also know that that's just the way the loco is. So I think it's better, but it's certainly not what I wanted it to be. But that's not a fail, because there's still another loco I'd like to look at. So let's go and give that one a try now, shall we?
Okay, so this is the Bachmann LMS 10,000 locomotive, and as you know, this one displayed an almost complete lack of torque, and when the power was cut to it, despite its massive flywheels, it was stopping dead. So that suggests to me some sort of friction. I'm not thinking the lubricant's become old and gone crusty, because this was only just released before Christmas, so there hasn't been time for that to happen. Maybe the locomotive is under lubricated. I might look into that. I'm thinking more along the lines though of something maybe inside. Maybe there's a wire that is touching one of the flywheels maybe, or maybe there's something touching and dragging on one of the shafts inside, one of the drive shafts, that's zapping all of the loco's torque. Maybe there's a faulty component on the circuit board which is cutting the power to the motor and only allowing a small amount of current to get through. Yeah, it's a mystery, this one. I'm really interested to find out what's going on. I'm also not very confident that I will discover what's going on. It would be an absolute dream come true to just find a wire that's gone off kilter and is just touching one of the flywheels. I'd love that if that was true. I don't think it's very likely, because the wire management looked really good. And also, I'm not even sure if I'll have great access to the flywheels and such. I'm going to do my best, but these are a little bit awkward to access sometimes. So we will see. At the end of the day, if I don't find anything wrong with the circuit board or anything else, I might try and remove the base keeper plates and just have a look at the lubrication. Are the bearings lubricated? Are they dry as a bone? Sometimes a locomotive might come out of the factory without very much lubrication, and that could cause issues. I'm not sure. If I can get access to the drive shafts and the flywheels and such, that will mean I can turn them by hand and I'll be able to actually feel whether there's an awful lot of friction in the system or not. That might be quite interesting. Yeah, there's quite a lot I can look into. Again, it could, as I initially suspected, be the motor, and if that's the case, I'm not going to do anything about that today. There's all sorts I could do. I could try and source a new motor. I could send it back to Bachmann and get them to fix the motor. I mean, they should do that really if there is a motor issue. It's quite difficult to prove that there's a motor issue, of course, but yeah, I'm hoping that that's not the case, because most other things I can sort out. Anyway, this is taking absolutely ages, so I'll see you in a second once all the base screws are out and the body's ready to come off. Okay, so the body is off, and yeah, I'm not feeling too confident about this, to be honest. As you can see, this chassis block covers up the flywheel and the motor, the flywheels rather, and the motor, and it's held on by these large plastic clips, which I will have to overcome in order to get inside. So I'm just thinking about what the best way to do this is, because obviously I don't want to damage any of those plastic clips. So I'm just going to remove the circuit board screws and see if I can get to the motor underneath there. I'm not convinced I will be able to, but I'd like to have a look. Again, there's going to be a whole ton of wires in the way when I do this, which isn't ideal, but we shall see. Also, I will be able to power the motor directly from the circuit board. You can see the motor contacts there. That will be interesting to do. If the torque is suddenly restored when I do that, then I know that there's something on this circuit board which is causing problems. And then I've got a few choices. I can try and sort of trace through all the components and find out which one is causing faults, or I can just bridge directly a wire across to them. Right, so looking underneath the circuit board, I can tell that there is zero access underneath there to the motor, which is a bit confusing. So is the motor sort of glued to the inside of this chassis block, or is it just sort of stuck in with friction? Yeah, I don't know. But I'm going to try and power the motor directly via the motor contacts, which I think will be quite interesting. We will see whether that causes the loco to run any better. So here we go. Let's put that on there. Pop this one on here, and because this is quite a solid thing, I'll be able to lift it up and stop the wheels turning myself and find out how much torque there is. But let's see if I actually got it. Is that the connection we needed? Yeah, it seems to be. Right, let me stop the wheels. Right, now that's interesting. That's very interesting. So the motor is turning, but the wheels are not spinning. Now someone did actually suggest this as an issue to me, and I said, no, I don't think so, it sounds like the motor is stalling. Well, it seems that's not the case. It seems that the drive shafts are actually slipping. Right, we know what the problem is. It isn't the motor, that's the good thing. It isn't anything on the circuit board, that's also a good thing. But it also means that I'm going to have to fully disassemble this thing to get access to the shafts so that I can glue the pieces that are slipping together. That has complicated things. That has deeply complicated things. And also, what an embarrassing mechanical failure from Bachmann. There are parts slipping inside, which means the loco can't pull like it should be able to. That is ludicrous. Right, full disassembly then. Let's give it a try. So I now understand what's got to happen. I'm going to have to remove the bogies, which is annoying. It's annoying to get them back on, actually. That's going to be super annoying, but it's got to be done if I want my loco to run properly. At this point, I would probably recommend just sending the thing back to Bachmann, obviously, and getting them to replace it. But as far as I know, these are all out of stock everywhere now, so I don't know if I'd have a lot of joy doing that. Not that I'm having much joy anyway, but yeah, whatever. So I'm just going to get this circuit board fixed back on, then I will remove the bogies, which are not hardwired, by the way. I saw when I lifted up the circuit board that they are just spring-loaded. So I shouldn't have any problem in just removing the bogies outright. And this is kind of the point of no return. Once I remove these bogies and the shafts disengage, then I have no choice but to finish the job or end up with a dead loco, which is obviously no use. But no, this is good. We'll be able to do this, I reckon. It might take all day, and I'm not looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm going to do what Bachmann couldn't and produce a locomotive that works properly, or so help me, I'll stamp on it. Right, bogie 1 is out. I wonder on which end there is slipping going on. I'm not sure. But as you can see, that's come away quite neat and tidily. Yeah, the shaft has come out with it. Don't know if that will be the case on the other side or not, so let's find out. Yeah, the shaft's come out with it. There we are. Okay, so now I'm going to try and remove the chassis block, and that should give me better access to the motor and such. This is nerve-inducing. This is certainly not something I'd hoped to have to do with a new locomotive, but I suppose if other people are having this problem, it might show how to go about fixing it, I suppose. Right, let's see if this base is going to come off any easier now. Yes, it is. It's held in place with annoying wires, but I can now turn the base around, being very careful not to stress the wires, so that I can find out what it is that is slipping. So, how do we figure this out? I'm going to take off one of the drive shafts. I'm going to insert it in here. Yeah, that's, oh wow. That is definitely where the problem is. So with my other finger, I am turning the motor around, and as you can see, with absolutely zero resistance, this is very, very free to turn, and I assume it will be the same on the other side. Let's have a look. I'm sorry if you can't see this. That one's, it didn't seem quite as bad, but yeah, it is completely free to turn, that is. Right. Not impressed, Bachmann. Not at all impressed. I'm just thinking now how I can actually get these out so that I can glue them. This is complicated. Okay, so it appears that the little plastic pieces that turn these shafts are just friction fitted to the inside of the flywheels, and they're covered in oil, which obviously will not help at all. And I should say that I haven't gone anywhere near this with the lubrication or with my oiling pen, so any over lubrication on this model is not my fault. This is all as it came from the factory. There we are. Cool, they are covered in sticky lubricant. No wonder they are not fitting properly. Right, so I'm going to clean them up, and then ultimately I'm going to just apply a tiny amount of glue to them and stick them back in. Obviously, I'm going to be cleaning the inside of the flywheels as well. This is useless. This is useless. £155. And Bachmann can't even assemble a locomotive properly. I don't even understand how oil got inside there. Did they lubricate it deliberately? I don't know. And I am deeply sorry to those people I doubted. There were people who suggested that this might be the issue, and I did not consider it an option. I thought, no, it can't be it. The motor sounds like it's stalling. Well, I was incorrect. So thank you guys for planting that idea in my mind. I shall not doubt you again. So that is dry, and no, it's not dry, and just to speed up the process, I'm going to dry it with the other end of the cotton bud. There we go. Now, nervous about the next part because it involves glue, and glue and models is not a mixture that I particularly enjoy. So I'm actually going to practice putting these parts in and out. It's actually reasonably safe, I would say, as long as the glue goes where it's supposed to, of course. I can't believe they've designed it like this. Even without the lubricant all over it, that is still completely free to take. It's just a stupid design. It's hilarious. Right, okay, well, I understand what has to be done then. So, I mean, the amount of glue required here is going to be very, very small. I think it's crucial that, because otherwise it's going to take forever to dry. So I'm applying the glue to a needle, as you can see. I'm thinking this is a smart idea. Just a little bead of glue on the end of the needle. And I'm just going to apply it inside that flywheel and spread it round. Right, I think that will do the job very nicely. Make sure this piece goes in the correct way. Okay, that has gone in. And hopefully it will never ever come out again. Right, let's flip the system around and do the same thing again. And then I suppose I'll reassemble the thing while the glue dries, and I won't try it until a little while in the future. I haven't actually tried the Flying Scotsman yet, so I'll try that before I try this, but the glue won't take long to go off. I'm using a tiny amount each time. Okay, let's spread that around the inside of this flywheel. Okay. Yeah, that's well done. That's good. Right, let's try and get this in. Okay, it's in. I'm just baffled by Bachmann sometimes. How did they think that would work? There was no glue holding them in. There was nothing to lock those plastic pieces inside the flywheel as far as I could see. It was a completely smooth surface, nothing to lock onto, no adhesive to hold them in place, lubricant all over the place. How did they expect it to work? I don't understand. What were they thinking? Were they even thinking? I'm completely, my brain's melting. I'm lost for words. How incompetent. I cannot believe I've had to, look, this locomotive is in pieces. It is in 100 bits on my desk, brand new, £155. I should not have done this. I should not have done this. This was Bachmann's mess to fix. And if you get this problem, I would not recommend going through what I've just gone through, because that was a right old faff, to say the very least. Wow, I'm astounded by that, but I'm so glad I did this now because I've figured out what the issue was. Okay, so I'm going to reassemble. There's nothing really that will get glued up if I start putting this thing back together now, so I'm not worried about that too much. I'm just going to clip this face back on, and now we've got the really annoying part of trying to get these shafts into all of the right holes, which I appreciate sounds a little bit funny. I'm just going to make sure it's not slipping on the other end, which no, it isn't. That's all right then. Okay, so what do? I'm going to angle the shaft so that it matches more or less. And then it's just a case of trying to guide the darn thing back in. Okay, I believe that is in. So before it comes back out again, I'm going to pop the screw in. This isn't as bad as I thought, actually. Might actually get away with this, but I won't say anything like that until the other one's in. Seems like that's a self-tapping screw, which is not good either, but that's in. Okay, the other side. Carefully. Yeah, that's in. Okay, well that was much easier than I expected it to be. Took it easy that time, that was great. Okay, let's get the screw in. And I suppose before I put the body back on, I'd better test that the thing's actually working, although I am conscious that that glue hasn't yet gone off. So I am just going to be very, very careful. I'm going to set the power very low on the controller, and I'm just going to touch power to the wheels without there being any load involved, and just make sure that the wheels actually turn. Yeah, okay, that's proved it. So they are working. Right. Oh, that was a journey, folks. I feel like I've been on a roller coaster, which usually I enjoy, but this is not one I would like to ride again. Okay, let's see then. So the front, yes, I believe we've got this the right way around. Yes, we have. Yeah, this is right. Okay, you'll be pleased to know that I will not show you the entire process of screwing all of the screws back in on this model, because there's too many of them. Yeah, I think that's it, it's in. Right, I'll pop the screws in and then we'll give this a little test after the glue has had a chance to go off. Wow, I still cannot believe what I found inside there. What a design. Right, okay, well, I'm a bit more confident with this one because I actually found a problem inside, which I think I fixed. I'm still not sure whether that glue is going to be holding or not. I really hope it will, and after I've filmed this, I'll probably leave it for quite some time before I run it again. But I think it should at least be holding now, but fingers crossed those little plastic parts inside the flywheels will actually now be connected to the flywheels forever. Okay, does the thing still work? Oh yes, very nicely too, actually, yeah. Reasonably pleased with that, that's very nice and smooth. Okay, dare I ask the question, does this loco now have a little bit of torque? If I put my finger in front of it and turn up the power, are the wheels going to remain spinning or are they going to stop dead? Let's find out. Oh, they're spinning. Okay, awesome, awesome. All right, well, I'm not going to do that for long. To be honest, I feel so glad about that one. I could do it all day, but I'm conscious of that glue still drying inside there and I don't want to spoil things. Do you know what? I think I've actually fixed it. I think this thing is actually working properly. Is it nice and speedy? Seems a little bit quicker now than it was actually, which makes sense because, as I say, the drive shafts and the bogies are actually now connected to the motor. They're actually mechanically locked to the motor, as opposed to just sort of friction fitted and slipping. So that's really, really good. Is the flywheel having more of an effect now, I wonder? Let me speed it up and I will cut it off right in front of you and we'll see if it comes to a gradual stop. Oh, actually no, not really. But those flywheels weren't all that chunky, actually, were they? So I reckon those flywheels will be enough to smooth out any cogging from the motor inside there, but they're not enough to keep the loco running over an extended period of time. But yeah, I've seen those wheels now slipping on the track. I've seen them spinning while the loco is at a standstill. So I know that those shafts are now properly connected to the motor, which is the main thing. And it runs very nicely as a result. Okay, well that is a success. One was a sort of partial success. The Flying Scotsman was improved, but certainly not fixed. But that might just be the way the model is. This one though is a decided improvement. I'm really, really pleased to see this working properly now. And now that I know that the motor isn't a little bit dodgy, as I first suspected it was, I'll be more than happy to load this up with a few more wagons and coaches, let it pull the trains that it really wants to. Yes, as a loco of this size. So that is great. Come on, let's have another try. Let's get those wheels spinning. Here we go. There, look at that. Amazing, amazing. Right. Well, thank you very much for watching, folks. I will leave it there. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know down in the comments if you did. Thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one. All right. Cheers, everybody.